Hello, and welcome to Secular Sexuality, the ACA show that actually knows how to trim our fingernails and how to use a strap-on. I'm Christy Powell. My co-host tonight is one of the sexiest entrepreneurs to ever grace the show, Amberly Rothfield. Welcome, Amberly.
Thank you so much.
And our guest tonight is an AVN award winner and a sinner with 2 N's. Welcome, Sinn Sage.
Hello, I am so thrilled to be here.
And before we start tonight, we are saddened to hear about the passing of Dakota Sky. She was an absolute sweetheart and to so many different people, and she's going to be very well missed. Gone far too soon.
Mm-hmm.
But tonight we will be talking to Sinn Sage. We're going to be strapping on to talk about some girl on girl in the dog eat dog world. So make sure you guys call us at 512-991-9242 or tiny.cc/call-sex before the show to start right now. Call in. We want to hear from you guys.
We'd love to hear from you. We've got a bunch of lines open. We've got a couple of calls already coming in, but I will just go ahead and say that now is the time to call because we've got a lot of great content that we want to go over and some really big name guests. So please, this is your moment. If you don't call now, I cannot guarantee that the shy folks who like to wait a half an hour are going to have a shot. With that though, okay, so you work with Sinn Sage Productions. You are Sinn Sage. Tell us about how you came to own your own studio and what that looks like.
Yeah, so for me, it's kind of like, I guess, the obvious sort of end result of having been a performer in the business for as long as I have. I always kind of imagined that like owning a studio or running a studio, it required some sort of capital or some sort of something in particular that I just didn't have or would never get. But no, not really.
Sure.
Just, get yourself a watermark and yeah. And, you need like some kind of distribution, but now everything's distributed online really. So just, when you're ready to say you've got a studio, go ahead and say it and make it happen. So I finally eventually was talking with Courtney Trouble of Trouble Films, which is one of the most iconic queer film companies in the business. And that's something obviously like I identify with my queerness very, very strongly and always wanted to be a part of that and like represent that with the work that I do. It's really important to me. So I just asked them like, hey, I'd love to, what does it take to make your own studio? Because I kind of want to do that myself. And they were like, oh, well, how about you just are the studio and we'll distribute your stuff? And I was like, sounds great. And here we are. So yeah.
Well, why was it important? I mean, you mentioned really identifying with your queerness. That may be a good place to start, but like, why take on the responsibility, the headache, and everything else here?
It's kind of like, at some point you have to become the producer. You can't just be the performer anymore unless you're wanting to move on and do other things with your life. So there was a time around sort of like the beginning of the Pornhub boom when, companies weren't like booking me as often, and I could kind of see that was slowing down a lot. And I had to then just be like, well, how am I going to adapt? Because to me, this has always been a career. It's never been like, oh, I'm going to do this for a little while and then move on to other things. Like, no, this is what I was meant to do. And I love this job. So it's a career for me. So I was like, I have to just get my hands on a camera, and I'm getting all these emails about making custom videos. So maybe I should also get a light. And so, yeah, I started with like a Sony Handycam. That was, like $130 and a $25 light I got off Amazon, and just tried to make one of these custom videos. And that's where it started, probably back in 2013. And then things start to build and they start to grow, and before you know it, I'm like buying a better camera and I'm buying a light kit, and it just kind of snowballs and just does its own thing. And so I will say, so being a content creator, being a producer, especially making custom videos, it is, I don't want to call it a headache, but it is like stress for sure. It can be a lot. The inbox is never not full. Like the email inbox is just a cycle of getting it all cleared away and then it all fills up again. But it's so totally worth it to have, what I consider is just like the freedom of doing this, freedom in so many ways. And I feel like, I rather than just being like a commodity for these studios, now I am the studio and I am the means of my own production, and so the owner of my own productions. And that's what has made me a lot more successful over the past 10 years for sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, anybody who has seen a secular sexuality video and then has taken a look at like my own YouTube channel can obviously testify to like the importance of having like a incredible production studio behind you, and the value of like the proper cameras and everything else. But I appreciate that you wanted to be able to, I guess, chart your own course a little bit and have that kind of autonomy. I mean, what was the value in that? Like, why has that been useful for you?
I mean, the value to be able to really be the one who makes all the decisions, the one I can decide, if I'm going to produce this custom video or not. If someone is like, I want you to make this, and I can read it and I can be like, well, I'm okay with this, but I'm not okay with that. So yeah, to me, I wanted to make sure that the things that I make are like representative of the things that are important to me, like ideologically. It's not always that way because, with customized videos, it's like, I just want to help people get off and feel good about it. So yeah, making my own studio, producing custom videos, all of this stuff. I like being the one in control of my life, basically, and not having to rely on bosses or other, studios, rely on them hiring me, or it's all on me. Like, I've got the responsibility, which is a lot, but also it's that freedom to just represent myself. So
there's a supreme power in that too, like being able to represent yourself and knowing that because I know when I started that there were a lot of there was only a certain number of studios, if that makes any sense. And with there only being a certain number of studios and companies that we could even work with, there becomes that I don't want to say stigma, but the idea that there's only so much money that you can, not so much money that you can make being someone that would normally be booked, but knowing that I can turn away money and still be okay. Like I love the fact that I was able to do that, at least when I got started. And it sounds like Sinn has a similar story of not maybe wanting to work with the traditional studio. So I thought traditional studios are bad.
Okay, so a traditional studio having your own power, I mean, it's not necessarily a bad situation, but I'm getting the sense that this like impacts the type of content or the way the content looks. I mean, what is the value of that freedom here?
I think so. The bigger studios, they've got all the money, so they definitely have cameras that are, way better, and they can get locations that are very expensive, and so, I'd say what I do, and what Courtney Trouble does, it's a little more homegrown, but again,
not to butt in on that, but Courtney, I love heart to Courtney. She ironically told me, she's like, I started off filming porn in my bedroom, and now big studios are beginning to do what we do. which I thought
Yes.
was I love that. She's like, they used to make fun of me, but now they literally do the same thing that I do, and they come to me for tips. Love that.
Yep.
Shout out to Courtney Trouble.
Yeah. Well, and that was especially a big thing when COVID hit. It was these big, major, huge studios that normally rent out, multi-$1,000 locations for the day were contacting us performers individually and being like, okay, do you have a camera? Do you have a 4K camera? Do you have lights? And can you make something in your house? And we'll pay you for it. And they turned those into full-on DVDs. Like I went to a sex shop last night and I saw a DVD, like an actual physical DVD with my scene that I made, that I shot in this house, that my husband shot me, like on that DVD. So that was just another shift as far as that innovation, what you were talking about before. It's just that, like, yeah, the industry will always be innovating and finding ways to get you the porn that you're looking for. But yeah, I mean, that's just what I do. Like, we shoot stuff here in the house. When we get really sick and tired of this as being a location, we'll rent an Airbnb or like a hotel room or something and just shoot there for a change up. But that's the thing is, you get like nowadays, and things have changed so much since I got into the industry. But nowadays, so 15 years ago, if someone was like, well, how do I get in the industry? I'd be like, okay, you get an agent, and you can find, these ads from some photographers, and you can go on like Model Mayhem or whatever. But nowadays, like so many people are, oh, how can we get into the industry? And I'm like, dude, I don't know, man. You got the internet, like figure it out. Like, because really anyone can do it. I mean, do you have a phone?
Exactly. Do you have a phone is my question.
That's the requirement.
Yeah. Well, any other tips for performers that are wanting to like take control of their work and are wanting to kind of follow in some of these footsteps?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, obviously right now, the biggest thing you can do is like you start yourself off with an OnlyFans, like get an OnlyFans, make a media presence, make an online presence, get your stuff on every platform you can. And then once you have that going, don't stick only with OnlyFans. Like take all that content you're shooting for OnlyFans and get a ManyVid store, get a Clips for Sale store, like diversify your portfolio is what I like to say. And once you start shooting all that stuff, that's basically, I mean, now you've got yourself a little studio. Tell the world that you are making custom videos and make yourself a website, or, pay someone else to do it for you. It's not that hard.
Yeah. Well, we already have a small stack of callers coming in. I'm really excited to get to our main segment tonight, which is about, the heteronormatization, the sexualization, the fetishization of lesbian sex, especially in pornography. So, I'm very, very eager to give us as much time for that. So I think we're just going to sneak in one very quick phone call